So you can see on the shoe I've already done, I put it just off of the heel seam. It's about 1 finger width, and I just make sure it's even on both sides, so I can fold it and make sure that it's the same. You know, if you're doing crisscross elastic, I would put one back here and one farther up so that you get that nice X pattern. I like to do just the single wide elastic. I feel like that is both a better look on my foot, and also I just like the feeling of it. It feels really nice and secure. So to get started, I'm just gonna place the elastic, and I do like to have a little bit of overhang. I don't want it so short that I don't have anything to sew into right here. So I do like to have, you know, maybe about a 1/2 inch to sew into. I like to take my first stitch and make sure there's no tail on the behind the knot, which I do have a little bit right here. So I'm going to snip that off so I don't have to worry about that being visible. We can always do that afterwards too. And I like to hide my knot so that nobody can see it. So I'm going to actually go underneath, kind of in the center. Just pull straight through. And then my knot will be hidden underneath here. And from there, I'm actually going to make a box shape. I'm going to stitch a nice square all the way around the outside, and then I usually will make 1 or maybe 2 lines through the center of my rectangle. I do like to sew right up against the bottom of that drawstring casing, but making sure that you don't get into this drawstring space. If you sew into this, you will not be able to pull your drawstrings because this material will be stitched still. So I'm going to sew right below that. The first few stitches you do really have to hold your elastic in place. After you get a few in place, you really won't have to hold it as much. It will stay. And I do kind of keep a hand on it, keep my other thumb on it, just to make sure that it doesn't have any wrinkling underneath in the satin. I want to make sure that everything underneath is nice and smooth. And I just keep making sure my thread is nice and tight as I go. I also think it's important that your stitches are nice and tight, that you're not having really big stitches, that you're not stepping way far across from where you last were, but that you keep everything nice and narrow and tight. I think that just keeps it a little cleaner looking. If you do it on the back side, it's not as big of a deal, but if you do it on the front, then you're gonna have long pieces of thread or floss showing. And up close, you can see those stitches. They're not perfect, they don't need to be, but they're pretty narrow, pretty snug. And already I could probably dance with this as it is and it would never come out. But I like to go all the way around so that it's really snug, and that way if the top were to come out, the bottom would hold, you know, both sides are held. Everything is really nice and together. And yes, this is probably overkill. This is probably more than I need to do, but I know that it's always reliable. So that one I almost missed the elastic. If you do that sort of thing, it's really okay. I mean, I did barely catch it, but if you end up missing it, it's really fine. This is not about perfection. I mean, those were pretty tidy, but this up here is a mess, and it's really fine. It's about the work actually sticking and being really secure for you, not about how it looks. And I do like saving the top row for the end. You could obviously go whichever direction you wanted. You could start across the top and then finish in a side. You know, do whatever way you want. I like saving the top for the end. It just feels very final, and I can kind of, I usually will make some knots as I go along that one so that it's extra secure, just so I know that I'm really done and really finalized. Okay, so I've done my 3 sides. Now I'm just going to go across the top. So I'm gonna go back to the inside. And then anything you knot, you want to do it on the inside at this point, just so that it's not visible from the outside of the shoe. So I'll probably do a few knots. Go back out, back in, and then here I'll probably put a knot since it's kind of in this corner. And to do that, turn the shoe a little bit. To do that, I will take the needle, go underneath, try to pick up maybe right here where I'm not going to really feel it. Pick up part of the inner layer of the shoe and then through this, the bottom of the casing. Make sure you don't go through up here where the drawstring is. Go through the bottom of the casing, right? You can see what's right below where the stitching is. I'm going to pick that up. I'm going to pull almost all the way through. Got just a little bit left. I'm going to take my needle and go through that. That's going to allow me to make a knot. And I'll pull it really nice and snug. You can watch it. And then that just made a knot. Now I'm going to sew a few more regular stitches. So I'm going to go back out. Turn my shoe back the way I had it. Just a better angle for me for sewing. So I'll do probably 3 or 4 more. Do another knot. 3 or 4 more. Do another knot. My students think that I've had some students, not all of them, but some students that think it's not as important to sew like more than like 4 stitches total, and it really is. It makes a big difference. Okay, so that was a few more. I'm gonna put a knot, so I'll put one kind of in the middle, and then I'll go all the way to the corner and do my last knot. And again, like I said, this may be overkill, but if it doesn't ever come out, then I'm in good shape. So same thing, I'm gonna kind of grab with my needle, get this really close for you, grab the inner layer and then in through that pink right below the stitches, pull it almost all the way through so it makes a little circle. Sometimes it gets a little twisted. Take my needle through the circle and then I'll pull that and I'll make a knot. And then I'll do all the way from the knot to the end, and I'll do one more knot. It's nice and smooth underneath. I do kind of, like I said, keep my finger on that as I go to make sure I don't get any bubbles in the satin underneath. So I'm on the inside with my thread. I need to do one more knot. And this time, instead of doing a single, I'll probably do 2 or 3. But I'll get it nice and close again. We'll go through the inner layer. There it goes. Bottom of that pink material, satin. Get my little circle, needle through it, and pull. And I'll do one more of those. Find my circle and pull. And that is really nice. I pull it really nice and tight, make sure it's all set. And then take my scissors, cut really close so that you don't have a big tail hanging out. And that is set and ready to go. And then you're going to repeat the process on the other side. Now, what I would do, even though I have measured this, I've measured this probably 3 times, and I know that all I have to do is set this right here and sew it. I'm still going to then put this on my foot, stretch it over, make sure it fits right, because that's just how I am. I want to make sure it's perfect because I do not want to have to do this over again. I do not want to have to redo it. So I'm going to try this back on, make sure it's good, sew the left side, and then I'll be ready to sew my ribbons.